Hello, I'm Matthew Albanese, and I'm here with Michelle Dubois, Democratic incumbent seeking re-election to the House of Representatives here in Massachusetts for the 10th Plymouth District. Included in that district are the towns of West Bridgewater, part of East Bridgewater, and part of Brockton. The general election is going to be held on Tuesday, November 6th. Mrs. Dubois, thank you for being here today.
And thank you.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself, if you could.
Well, I'm happy to be here with you, Matt, and thank you for your service to the town of West Bridgewater as a selectman for all those years. Sure. And as a resident, my friend, so thank you. So I'm honored to be the state representative for the 10th Plymouth District, and as you said, it represents all of West Bridgewater, a town that I really love. Before being a state rep, I've been in the state rep for 2 terms, and during that time, I've really fought to get funding for West Bridgewater roads and infrastructure and schools, and overall improve the baseline in the quality of life and health of the residents. So that has really been my focus.
Great. And I know public service is really a passion for you, and I think people sometimes don't realize that during a campaign season, when you're an incumbent, you still have work to do.
Oh, sure.
I mean, you know, the calls don't stop, the inquiries, the letters. I mean, you've been very busy. In fact, when I contacted you yesterday, you were tied up trying to help an elderly resident, I believe. And tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, you know, there are different ways of being a state representative. And I, like you said, have really chosen the way of public service as I see my job as a state representative as a big part of it. So just as an example, a couple weeks ago I got a call from a 71-year-old woman who was facing an auction in 2 weeks. And so the next day I went out to her house and I talked to her. She had been in her house many years and got cancer and got ill and missed payments and was embarrassed and didn't tell her children. And the sale was looming, and she only owed $40,000 on this home. Wow. So there was a lot of equity to be lost. So I broke it to her son, who is a wonderful man. He, of course, was supportive of his mom and thought, oh my gosh, I could have helped you. But in any event, we take it from there. And yes, they are gonna. I mean, it's pretty certain that they we stopped the auction. And they are going to go through the process of getting the house, and the son is going to be working on that to save the house and all that equity. And what happens after that, of course, is their decision. So often, being a state rep, when someone needs something and they can't find the solution elsewhere, you're almost the path of least resistance, because I encourage people to call me. Sure. And I can either facilitate their needs to the appropriate person in the state government or local government, or just, in this case, I got a lawyer, an attorney, and different, and a realtor and a mortgage broker all together to give good counsel to this son and the woman, and just help people facilitate good solutions to their problems. It's a big part of my job, and I love it.
And I think that's one thing I've always admired and respected about you, is you're always there, you're accessible. You're not going to pawn off that problem on someone else. You're hands-on.
Right.
And I think that makes a big difference.
Well, that's a part of the job I love, so I'm happy that I get to do it. So I have office hours in every single municipality in the district. So I'll have one at the Council on Aging every month and one at the Town Hall in every month. And I like to call West Bridgewater as the third month of the week. Third week of the month, I'm a West Bridgewater gal, so to speak, because I have office hours on Wednesday at the Council on Aging and on Monday at the Town Hall. And I'm always accessible. So I have meetings in people's homes, at coffee shops. My phone, I give out my cell phone number, and that's 774-274-1344, because I want people, even though I am a representative at the state level, I want people to realize that I am one of the closest representatives that they have in government, in that I'm elected by 40,000 people, not 160,000 people, not a whole county, not a whole state. It's really a community. And so I want people to feel as though I'm their local state rep, because I am, and that if they do have a problem, they can know that it will be kept in confidence, and my intentions are to make sure that their outcome is as beneficial to them and their family as humanly possible.
Great. Now, you were elected the state representative for West Bridgewater in 2014. How would you describe the last 4 years as our state representative?
Well, this beautiful high school is here, and a lot of that has to do with Christine Canavan, the former state rep, and Senator Joyce. But I got to see this unveiling and the ribbon cutting in the town. It's been really great to get to know the people here a little bit better and much better. I mean, I have family here, so it isn't like I don't feel like West Bridgewater is just like part of my family too. But I live in Brockton, and just getting to better understand the monthly activities and the different things at different churches and the little leagues and the sports and the families, that has been a learning process, but I've enjoyed it. And the town itself is really beautiful. I mean, there's so many open spaces and so many great places to go. And I've just been trying to enhance that. And so how do you do that from the state level, right? So I asked myself, how can I do that?
Great segue.
Right. And what I've tried to do, I have a niece and a nephew in the West Bridgewater public school system. So I care about school systems no matter what. It's really the foundation of a community is the schools. And so I've really focused on trying to deliver more money to West Bridgewater for schools. So as an example, if you were to look at the Chapter 70 funding, which is the school funding, from 2014 to 2015, when I was not the state representative, there was only a $70 increase. And when I got in, I really fought to increase those numbers. So there was a $500,000 increase into the 2016 budget, $400,000 increase in the 2017 budget, close to $200,000 increase in the 2018 budget, and a $375,000 increase to the 2019 budget. And my main priority this session, if I'm given the honor of being reelected, is to really get the 4 requirements or the 4 recommendations from the Foundation Budget Review Commission. They looked at how school funding is put together across the state, implemented, and 2 of those recommendations will deliver significant money to West Bridgewater. And the first is the cost reimbursement for special education, where the state is underfunding that, and we need to work on that and fix that problem. And the next is the reimbursement rate for retirement and health benefits of the faculty and the teachers and the staff members. And once that gets corrected, all those dollars that should have been coming to the town for those purposes can then be used where we really want them, which is with the kids and their academics and their success in their future. So schools in a town like this, where people move to West Bridgewater because they want to be able to raise their family in a safe, nice place with good schools, is critical. And I have that first and foremost, not only just for West Bridgewater and East Bridgewater, which are in my district, but also Brockton, who would benefit from all 4 of the recommendations being implemented. The other 2 are concerning low-income students. It costs a little bit more to educate them, so the science says, and that isn't coming in, and English as a second language.
Now, obviously, as an elected official, you're at the State House. Years ago, I worked as a legislative aide at the State House. We can speak in State House parlance, but I think it's important maybe to clarify for the residents of the town and the voters that their tax dollars that go to the state level do come back to West Bridgewater.
Right, they do.
But it depends on the advocacy. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well,
The roads and things like that.
It's really unfortunate that it is this way. That everything isn't just provided based on really what's right and what's fair. But we all know the world isn't fair sometimes, and we really have to fight and advocate for what is right, and that's what I've been doing at the State House for this district, because for whatever reason, definitely with the school funding, West Bridgewater wasn't getting really its fair share, and we're still working on making it better. And with the Chapter 90 money, like the roads and bridges money, the number in the budget itself has not changed much. But the major projects outside of the budget that we've gotten done, the 106 intersection, that was 2.8, I'm sorry. The intersection was $2.8 million, and we got the 106 bridge replaced, and that was $4 million. So that's a lot of money from bonding of roads, bridges, and construction that came to the town of West Bridgewater. And I think before that, the last major flush of cash for these types of projects was in 2009.
Okay.
So having been a city councilor for 10 years in Brockton, the neighboring city, I'm really into that municipal type of government. So I care about roads and bridges. I care about schools, because I remember for 10 years on a city council being, told that this is what the
Absolutely.
community wants. So I know that that is important. And so I've been really focusing on that. And I think that my municipal experience as a city councilor, which is like a selectman here in West Bridgewater, has really helped me to understand some of the problems. And one thing that I don't know if the residents of West Bridgewater know about, because it hasn't really been, I think, adequately celebrated, is, and I think it's because the topic is kind of gross. So Brockton has a wastewater treatment plant. And that wastewater treatment plant is in the Oak Hill Way area, if people know that part of Brockton. It's right on the West Bridgewater line, right on the East Bridgewater line. And until January of 2018, Brockton burnt all of its, what they call cake, but it's poop. They burnt it in an incinerator. So as a city councilor, I fought to close that incinerator. It's like 1950s technology. And as a state representative, I use the influence that this title has given me, thanks to the townspeople of West Bridgewater and the city of Brockton and East Bridgewater, to push down. And I pushed down on the Commissioner of EEA, Environment and Energy, and I pushed down on the DEP Commissioner, Mr. Suberg, and we were able to convince and pressure the city to close down that waste incinerator. And that does two good things for West Bridgewater. Number one, that incinerator was right on the Brockton line, and it put out 700 tons of toxic chemicals, mercury, arsenic, PM 2.5 that gets deep into people's lungs and causes your kids or me or anybody to have asthma, extra heart attacks, very dangerous. So that's 7 tons of toxic materials will no longer be floating in the air we breathe. So from a health standpoint, that's a major win. I think from a health standpoint, that's the best thing that has happened in this whole county in the last 2 years, because that's a lot of chemicals. From an economic development standpoint, it's really good for the town of West Bridgewater, because until that stack was closed, there was no way we were opening up more capacity to our wastewater treatment plant, because we didn't want to add any more of that burning of chemicals above our heads, because there is such a link between health and that type of particulate matter in the air. And what closing this incinerator is doing, we're replacing, getting rid of that type of solid waste in a different manner. What it's doing is now going to allow us to accept more wastewater treatment, which could open up, I'm working with the town and the selectmen now, open up capacity at the wastewater treatment plant to hook in more businesses down on Manley Street, to get more commercial and business tax revenue into the town, which, is a significant thing, and it will be in the future as we're able to expand business development in the areas that the town decides that they want.
Sure, sure. And it's funny that you mentioned the particulate matter earlier. I recall on my days on the Board of Selectmen years ago, we had to battle against the proposed power plant that was going to be sited next door to the wastewater treatment facility. So give us an update. Where does that stand after all these years?
So for us old timers,
yes.
No offense. So this has been a 14-year battle. I got into politics or public service through a citizen group that tried to stop a trash transfer station because of the particulate matter and the asthma. And once we won that battle, and then I ran for a city council seat, and I was able to win that seat, and that's when the power plant showed its ugly head. So it would be a frack gas, 350 megawatt natural gas power plant. It would be right on the line with West Bridgewater, on top of West Bridgewater's drinking water supply, like 200 feet from Matfield Woods. So dangerous. Originally, they were going to do diesel backup, which would have made the power plant like twice as dirty. But the citizen effort, led by you and me and many other people that are not named here, but are so many wonderful people, we were able to get rid of that. And then we were able to, through a coalition of West Bridgewater, East Bridgewater, and Brockton, get pro bono legal counsel. And we've had 2 of our appeals go all the way to the Supreme Judicial Court in Massachusetts, and they were argued for by attorney Goodhart. She's quite amazing. We won one, we lost one, and it's still in court.
Wow.
So it
Okay.
is very scary, because anyone just has to think about Lawrence and what happened there.
Sure.
And say, if you have natural gas, I support natural gas. I have no problem with natural gas. But natural gas, if it's not managed appropriately and sited in the right way and made sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, can be very dangerous for human health in multiple ways. And one is explosion, that's the scariest.
Absolutely.
And a facility with the exact same design as the one they want to put on the West Bridgewater line exploded in Connecticut probably 8 years ago while it was under construction. And it was next to a river that was 3 miles wide and buffered by all forest on the other side. And the people that lived on the other side of the river all had foundation issues and windows being broken. So there was a mistake made when the Energy Facility Siting Board and the Department of Public Utilities allowed this site to be even discussed. And that kind of brings me into another passion of mine, which is environmental justice. And the folks in West Bridgewater may not be environmental justice communities, but they're right next to one. In so many ways, the problems of Brockton get laid over on West Bridgewater because it isn't like you can just put up a screen and say you keep all your particulate matter and you keep that exploding power plant right on your line. This is what they do. They put these types of toxic businesses on lines of urban communities in the urban community, but abutting a community that is either more affluent or more suburban. And sometimes it takes away that smaller town's rights to oppose it. And then the bigger city makes the financial gain, and maybe they assume that the bigger city won't have as much care for their residents' health. And I know the town of West Bridgewater cares very deeply about the residents' health. And so that's been something I've been fighting for. Our area has the 5th highest asthma hospitalization rate for kids in the state, and that is not good.
No.
So, I mean, as far as environment, people might say, oh, she's a tree hugger. But I grew up in a city, and I know most of the people I know have someone that they love with asthma, and I bet a lot of people at home do too. And everything we can do within our power that's reasonable and rational and practical to cut down on that is going to make a little kid's life a lot better when they don't need to go to the emergency room at 12 o'clock at night because they can't breathe, and the parents too. So that's been a real focus for me.
You have real quality of life issues that make a difference. So
right, sometimes they're discreet, and it isn't like we're opening up the Amazon, warehouse. But in a town of 7,000 people, if say like 60 children don't have to have emergency trips to the, and be hospitalized in the course of 2 to 4 years. That's a big deal.
Absolutely. Now, while you've been in the state legislature as a state representative, you've had the chance to sponsor some bills and support different types of legislation. Tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, I can tell you, I wrote a letter to Charlie Baker going into this into this session that we just closed out at the very beginning. And I don't know, it isn't like he and I have coffee together every day or anything like that. But I laid out what was really important to me in this little note, and a lot of it has actually come true. So the foundation budget formula recommendations being implemented, it has not. But recently he said that that's going to be a focus for him next session, and I know it's one of Jay Gonzalez who's also running. So hopefully no matter who wins, we'll be able to tackle that. And another one I put on there that I did not file, but I supported different other state representatives' iterations of this bill, was to create a funding stream, a standalone funding stream for municipal police officer training. Right now, Massachusetts offers the same amount of municipal police officer training as Kentucky. And part of the reason that the police I have talked to say that we haven't had those same type of awful incidents, and even though we did have one awful incident with the officer in Weymouth, which was terrible, but was because that the officers that are on duty are higher educated to start with. But the training matters when you're in these types of situations to protect yourself as a police officer and to protect the people around you. And training is always good. So we were able to pass a bill that adds a $2 service fee to $3 service fee to every car rental in Massachusetts. So a lot of this will be paid for from people from outside of the state. and that money will go into municipal police officer training. And the budget will go from $6 million, and there are different estimates in these types of things, to 13 or to $16 million. And that's going to mean a lot better prepared police officers, not just on the streets, but also on how to fill out the paperwork required to make sure that the charges stick when they get to the courtroom as well. So I was really proud of that. Another one I got into because I was a municipal city councilor for 10 years, and I love this wonky municipal stuff and caring about people's family members and their safety. In Brockton, and I can't say in West Bridgewater, I would get pictures from workers who were forced to go into trenches to fix water main breaks, and they were sometimes over their heads. And I tried to fix it at the local level, and the DPW commissioner would always say, oh, we'll do it, but municipalities don't have to be beholden to OSHA. And so, sorry, Michelle. So I filed a bill to require all municipalities to follow OSHA laws with regards to trenching, evacuation, and confined space work. That's where the most fatalities occur. And right after I filed that bill, a Brockton man died in a trench in Boston that didn't have a trench box, and it got flooded with water, and that was terrible. And we were able to pass an even more expansive bill, which I'm really happy about. My bill folded into this one, that required all municipalities to afford all OSHA protections to all their employees. So everybody at home should know that. If you work in a municipality and they say that OSHA doesn't count, it does now. And I'm really proud of that.
Now, when you were first on our show back in 2014, you had said at the time that the three greatest needs in Massachusetts were education, jobs, and public safety. Do you still believe those are the three greatest needs for our communities?
You know, I think jobs is a pretty expansive definition, so if we really expand that out, yes. You know, economic development in the different municipalities, I think is, I don't want to say outgrown jobs, but our employment rate is getting better and better, and the employment rate even in Brockton is improving and improving. And I was able to secure a lot of job training dollars that go and serve people in West Bridgewater and East Bridgewater, but function through a program in Boston. But I want to try to figure out how we can grow corporations to find Brockton, West Bridgewater, East Bridgewater suitable to move their headquarters. Seems like there's a lot of that going on, and I want to make sure that we get a piece of that. But public safety, yes, number one. Schools, yes, number one. These are all very important priorities for me, yes.
Sure. And what would you like to see different, perhaps, in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts over the next 5 years with respect to public policy?
Well, I think we really need to pass the environmental justice bill. We really need to start transitioning away from these dirty energy market, these dirty energy production. We're finding that not only is it bad for our health, it's very bad for our economy because it doesn't give us flexibility. And once you're not flexible, then the market can exploit you. So if we had flexible energy sources, if the natural gas companies wanted to put up their prices, we could say, okay, we're flexible. We can go with this, we can go with that. So that's costing us a lot of money, and so that's something that we need to work on. I think that's critical. So, and that's a bill that I filed, and I'm hoping that we can get that passed in the coming session. I also have some bills that are kind of like, they're critical, but hopefully they won't affect everybody. So I have a bill to include gender as a protected class in the state's hate crime law, which would mean that if a man or a woman were beaten, raped, if their property was damaged based on hate of that gender, when it went to court, the district attorney could bring a secondary charge after the person was found guilty to say that this crime was based on hate, gender, and that person, the person found guilty could get 2 more years in jail and a bigger fine. And all New England states except for Massachusetts have that, and the federal government has that. So I've been working on that. I've filed a bill to terminate parental rights of convicted rapists. We've had some issues where family members and older terrible people have taken advantage of young girls. We're talking like 12, 14 years old, total rape, awful, terrible, and they've become pregnant. And that, in Massachusetts, the rapist still has rights. And so that's been used against victims and said, if you drop the charges, we will allow you to, we won't have, they have to sign off if you want to adopt the baby out. So that's just terrible. I filed bills for animal protection. I filed bills to make childcare more affordable. So I filed a bill, and it didn't go through, but I'm working on it, and I'm going to refile it again, that gives tax credits to companies that provide quality, affordable daycare to their employees. I have a real belief, and I think a lot of other people do too, that affordable daycare, not just for people that are in a low income bracket, but affordable daycare for working class and middle income families is going to, would explode our economy, because it would allow one of the parents, if you have a 2-parent household, to be able to get into the job force, be able to move their career forward. And if you're a single person, it would allow you sometimes access to get a job because you know where your child's going to be. I don't know about you, but I bet I'm right. I have a lot of friends who, when they looked at the numbers, they were both making pretty good money, the husband and the wife. And when they looked at the numbers, it was actually, they would wind up paying for one of them to work. And so they wound up just cutting their cutting their budget, living very frugally, and having one either work part-time or not work at all. Not because of choice. I mean, if that's what you want to do because of choice, I say God bless you. I think that's a wonderful thing to do. But a lot of times it's a huge burden. And we want to make sure that the children have safe daycare and childcare, but also that people can be accessible to people at all different income scales, so that they can take part in our economy and, you know, fulfill their full potential too.
I recall, as a former elected official, at some point during my 6-year tenure, there were some things I might have done differently. Have you had one of those moments as a state representative where you've said, gee, I wish, looking back, maybe I had done something differently?
You know, of course. I mean, with everything in life, I mean, you can always second guess yourself. I've tried as hard as I can every single day to be a respectful, responsible, take on this job seriously and soberly, and with the intention, with 100%, to make sure that our team gets as much out of the state budget and much out of the state bureaucracy as we can. Be it in an individual family's life, where you may be grandparent raising a grandchild, getting run around by the state bureaucracy. I've helped many families get through those hurdles. Or at the state level, when we're talking about funding for our schools, roads, bridges, and projects that the town may or may not want. Some of the tension at the State House and the tension in our nation around political bifurcation has caused me to think that, like, some things that any normal person, and they were not bad things, just normal things, that then can be exploited in manners by people with ill intent to really go out of proportion, have taught me to be much more guarded with, say, Facebook forwards or something like that, right? So because just one little thing, you know, can just turn someone's mind, and then so those things, the politics of it can get nasty sometimes, but I always try to just push that aside and remember the 71-year-old woman that's going to lose her home, but she's not going to lose her home now, because I went over to her house and I sat there with her for 3 hours and broke the news to her son and got people in a place that they could be supportive to her. And that is really what the job is. That really is. So there's nothing I regret. There are things that I think I would have done differently, but it's hard to second guess yourself. And most of it has been really great.
Great experience.
It really has.
You know, let me ask you this. You're running for re-election. Most people probably don't understand what a day in the life of a state representative really entails.
No, it's so different.
You don't have any outside source of income. This is your full-time job, but it's really a lifestyle and a calling. And tell me a little bit about your feelings about working full-time as a state representative, what is your day like?
Well, it varies, so thanks for asking, Matt, if you're in session or out of session, if we're having these formal sessions or not. But typically, I'm either working, I would say 70% of the time during formal session, which is a big bulk of the 2-year term, I am at the State House. I do work from home often. I have a lot of office hours, so it can vary. Typically, I have maybe 2 or 3 meetings a day, and I would say it varies between 2 of the meetings being with constituents or some kind of state agency or business person. And thank God for my aide, Ann. She helps me set all
she's
that
great.
up and get around. So there's driving to meetings, there's preparing for meetings, there's trying to figure out a way to best advocate for the needs of the person that you're meeting with, and then there's the whole management of it and making sure that you can check back in with people and not lose someone in the shuffle. If you have right now we have 70 different open constituent matters we have a binder and we go through them, and once a week Ann and I will sit down and flip through the pages and see where everybody is, because not everything is quick, as we know.
Right, true.
But sometimes it is.
Yes.
And so I would say 60% of my day is constituent services, and I would say 20 to 30% is talking to businesses and my colleagues and people in leadership about future projects that I want to put together, or municipal town folks, either the selectmen or the city councilors, to see where they want the town to go or the city to go. I've tried to really be tapped into that. Because I was a city councilor for 10 years, I know that the people on the ground have the best sense of where they want their town or their city to go. And it's really my job to take my marching orders from them and the electorate to tell me what's most important. And in a town like Brockton, where I'd been a city councilor for 10 years, I know exactly what that is. In a town like West Bridgewater, I ask around. I ask the folks that live here. I make sure I know I have family members that live here. I talk to them, and I make sure that I'm advocating. And in the end, there's usually a little difference of how, but the people in Brockton want the same things as the people in West Bridgewater. They want safe streets, they want their children to have a good school, they want to feel respected and appreciated, and these are the things that I try to deliver.
Great. Now, if someone wants to learn more about your campaign, how do they find out more about you?
So I have a website, www.repmichelledubois.com. I have an office, 617-722-2011. You're welcome to call anytime. I already gave my cell phone. You could email me at my name, michelle.dubois@mahouse.org. And you can call me. I have office hours every month in every single town. Like I said, third Wednesday and third Monday in West Bridgewater. And I hope that anyone that wants to talk to me about any topic, be it a policy topic, a budgetary topic, or an issue that they're having in their lives, would feel comfortable reaching out, because all I really want to do is to make our community a better place to live for everybody.
Sure, great. Are there any closing remarks you'd like to add?
Well, I guess the only thing that I would really like to add is how much of an honor it is to be the town of West Bridgewater state representative. I took over for Christine Canavan, and I think she did a really good job. But we're different people. And really, I want especially the parents and the grandparents at home to know that I know that sometimes, because I represent some people, 30,000 people in this district live in Brockton, 7,000 people in this district live in West Bridgewater, and around 4,000 people live in Easton. Sometimes people say, oh, she's only fighting for Brockton. And I just want everyone to know that the work that I'm doing on school funding and these increases, I mean, we're talking, over $1 million in increases in the time I've been a state rep. They're going to help your kids and your grandkids to have better opportunities in the future. And my first goal is this. My first goal is your kids, your grandkids, and making sure that they have the funding that they need and the educations that they need to do the best in their lives. So that I just want everyone to know that that's my priority, and that I'm going to fight on it, and I'm going to win that.
Great. Well, thank you for your time, and we wish you the best of luck in your re-election bid on Tuesday, November 6th.
Thank you, Matt.
We encourage all residents of West Bridgewater to vote that day. And thank you again.
Awesome. It's good being with you.
Same here. Thank you.